5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome aboard the Tuesday edition. Lots to get to today. Of course, Hamas refused to sign on to that ceasefire. Israel vowing stronger action than even before. So we'll wait to see how that materializes, and we'll keep you up to date. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the border. But first, Todd Akin, who ran for Congress, ran for Senate in 2012 from Missouri, issued a statement, made a statement about rape, which you'll see in 1 second here. And then all hell broke loose for him and the Republican Party back in 2012, right before the election. He has a book. Here's how our interview went earlier. Watch.
If an abortion could be considered in a case of, say, a tubal pregnancy or something like that, what about in the case of rape? Should it be legal or not?
Well, you know, people always want to try and make that as one of those things. Well, how do you slice this particularly tough sort of ethical question? It seems to me, first of all, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down. But let's assume that maybe that didn't work or something. You know, I think there should be some punishment, but the punishment ought to be on the rapist and not attacking the child.
All right, folks, I wanted to play that whole bite there. That, of course, is former Missouri Congressman Todd Akin. He is the author of a brand new book, Firing Back. It is out today, Tuesday, and it's taking on the party bosses and a media elite to protect our faith and freedom. Firing Back, and the congressman is sitting here.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for coming in. Really do appreciate it, sir. Those remarks, I know you eventually said that you wish you could take them back, and you apologized for them. And now I'm seeing that you're saying you take back the apology for the apology. So where are you on? Hey, of course I regret I said it, or I apologize, I don't apologize. Where are you?
Well, Steve, it was an interesting tactical question we had to make. I had misspoken, I had used a couple of poor word choice, and all of a sudden it turned into this humongous media tsunami. And it went to the absurd with the media saying all kinds of things that I never said, or in fact exact opposite of what I'd said. So we had to deal, either one, you try and change the whole thing by spending enough money, which we didn't have, or the other alternative we felt was to apologize for the perception that had been created.
While running for the Senate.
While running for the Senate, right. And so because also the Republican leadership was cutting off our money from behind, our only real choice we felt was to apologize, not for what I'd said, but for the perception that it created, because nothing I said, and certainly nothing I intended, meant to diminish women or to minimize the importance or the seriousness of the crime. That was never in our intent. But here's the thing that's kind of interesting, because we'll put these two things together. So I said something. Maybe we could argue back and forth what was the right words, but I said something. It's all just said some words, and it became an international media tsunami. Oh my God! And 2 weeks later, here you got the Democrat convention keynote speaker.
Well, let me just say, let me set that up for you maybe. I don't know exactly where you're going, but the fact of the matter is the media labeled, I mean labeled, you know, and the pundits labeled the convention in 2012, the Romney Convention became the convention of rapists. I mean, everybody there excused rape, loved rape, favored rape because of the comment you just heard us play.
Right.
And now you're talking about the Democratic convention.
Yeah, so we're at the Democrat convention, and so I've said something. It's now made me sort of an international bum. And here you've got them, keynote speaker, Bill Clinton, a long history of sexual abuse to all kinds of different women. And what do? They're clapping. They're applauding this guy.
As a keynote speaker,
As a keynote speaker. Now that's a Democrat. That's a Democrat war on women, is what's going on there. And then you jump forward a little bit, this current administration, they're encouraging abortions all over the world, and in India and in China, those abortions are being used for sex selection, killing little girls. That's a Democrat war on women. And then you go forward to, of course, Hillary, a new candidate for president from the Democrat side. What's Hillary do? You go back and you find out she is getting this guy who she knew was guilty of raping a 12-year-old girl, and she confounds the 12-year-old girl's testimony by making fun of her. And then in an interview, she's laughing about how she got this rapist off the hook. That's a war on women. I think the media's just got it totally backwards. And so I'm asking myself, look, the trouble, it's more than a media that's a dual standard. It's a media that is obscuring the truth and betraying a trust to the American people. They should be presenting some kind of truth, and they're not. They have their own agenda. They cover up terrible behavior, not just bad words, but terrible behavior in order to push their
we cover media bias on this show, I think, better than any other show in the country, and it's a horrific reality that we have to live with as Americans, and that Republicans have to live with as Republicans and as candidates. The double standard is immense, and you believe that you've been victimized by that, and
sure.
And the example you just brought out is a great example. But Republicans, quote unquote Republicans, went after you at the time as well.
Right. Yeah. And I think the answer to that is they were afraid. What were they afraid of? They were afraid of a media that could target and assassinate somebody by misinterpreting what they'd said. And they were also afraid that what they're going to do was to use me the way they'd done with Tom McCarthy years and years ago, who was absolutely right in everything he said, but they said this guy is some sort of anti-communist nut and all this sort of stuff. And then after he died, KGB files open up. Goodness gracious, everything he said was true except understated. So they were afraid of that. But here's my point on that. It seems to me that if you're trying to advance good ideas, what's good and true, what brings freedom, let people follow the dreams in their hearts. If you're going to advance that, you never advance it by backing down from things that are just plain wrong, from people who are hiding evil and telling lies. You never can advance it unless you stand up. And firing back is about standing up.
But again, when your own party refused to defend you, were you surprised? Were you shocked? Were you insulted? How'd you feel?
Well, first of all, when my own party abandoned me in the field, I thought, well, there's nothing new about that. The Republican have abandoned. But when they came back to try to terminate me, that was a different story entirely. But now moving forward, this is what concerns me. In the Wall Street Journal, Karl Rove and other Republicans saying, look, Akin proves you can't elect a conservative. Now, that's just flat out doesn't make any sense. Look at the record. I'm 24 years, a hardcore conservative.
In the House.
In the House, 12 years in the House, 12 years in the State House.
Right. Re-elected
by tremendous majorities all the time. My record proves conservatives can get elected. And they're saying, well, you can't elect conservatives, therefore, they're using me as as the proof, therefore, they want to ignore the Republican primary elections in various states, and they want to select rather than elect their candidate. Now, there's a certain arrogance in that, I see, that they think they know who the best candidate is. I believe that the Republican primary voters, after a year and a half on a campaign trail, can pick the person that's the best person to run. So that's a point of disagreement we have.
And Mitt Romney, your view on him at the time?
Well, Mitt Romney said that I should step down.
Right.
Okay. And then you've got Senator McCain says we don't even want him in the Senate. Don't vote for this guy. So they say all of this.
And the reason they did that, you believe, was media, to please the media?
Yeah, to try to distance himself from me. And so what happens? Well, we're fighting both political parties, but we're not all alone because the conservatives have come in like gangbusters. We've got Newt Gingrich there. We got also the guy did our forward of our book.
Mike Huckabee.
Huckabee, of course, yeah. And quite a number of other prominent conservatives.
He wrote a great forward for you in that book.
He did. And then all over the country, there's conservatives piling in to help us. So they're trying to cut our funding, but the conservatives are propping us up.
Where are you now? I have a political story right here. GOP to Todd Akin, shut up.
Right.
Do you fear that your book coming out at this time could harm the Republican Party in the midterms or going forward?
I don't think so. I'm trying to help the Republican Party, and I'm trying to make some useful suggestions. And the first thing is I'm trying to make it absolutely clear that this war on women is owned by the Democrats, and it's time Republicans stand up and tell the truth. And how can they hang this thing on Republicans when you've got a guy who's sexual abuse and all those kinds of things, speaking and being applauded? And so I think that's a very helpful thing, and I'm in a position to take that message.
If you thought that this could harm, the timing of the book could harm the Republicans going forward to the midterms, if you thought that, you know, you come out with the book, now the left's going to go nuts. Oh, he's back, and they're going to look for every Republican that they speak to. They're going to say, what do you think of former Congressman Akin writing a book? I mean, first of all, what do you expect the reaction to be if the McCains and the Romneys and the possible presidential candidates going forward are asked that? What do you think they'll say right now today? And if you thought that it would harm the party going forward, would you have written the book and have it come out now?
Look, if I thought we were going to harm, not so much the party, but if we were going to harm America, if we were going to set back the cause of truth and good ideas and what's right, then I just wouldn't have done it, okay? But that's what motivates me entirely. It's not a political agenda anymore. It's about the country, it's about doing what's right, and in the conclusion of the book, Firing Back, I talk about what just average people can do if they're worried about what's going on. And if I upset the party bosses by saying I support the election of people in a primary as opposed to selection, look, then party bosses, I don't really care, okay? If the media is able to try to hang me and say, oh, look, you agree with Akin? Look, it's just one guy and he's got a book. You can read it, see what you think. I think it's a good read. I make a lot of points. And the thing that might be amusing about it is, in the conclusion, where you have to say, well, where do we go from here? In the conclusion, it's not particularly political. It's more talking about the condition of the country and where the average regular guy can make a difference.
Have you left the Republican Party?
No, I'm going to vote for some Republicans, but if they want to say I'm not part of the party, they didn't want me to come to their convention. So I'm ambivalent on that point.
Okay, but you'd like to see them take back the Senate?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because our country is in, you know, with our current administration, it's a disaster in all kinds of areas. We have to take this country back.
Okay, Congressman, thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, folks, there you have former Missouri Congressman Todd Akin, the new book, Firing Back, Taking on the Party Bosses and Media Elite to Protect Our Faith and Freedom, out today, Tuesday. Thank you very much, Congressman, again. And we're coming back, the panel, on the Steve Malzberg Show.